Step into the tumultuous world of geopolitics as we unravel the gripping prologue to the unfolding drama in Ukraine. The year was 2014, and tensions were on the rise as Ukraine stood at a crossroads with their political destiny hanging in the balance. Little did the world know that the events in Crimea would serve as a catalyst for the headlines dominating our screens today. Welcome to the channel, subscribe and let's dive in. In the backdrop, Russia was stealthily plotting its move to seize internationally recognized Ukrainian territory. The Russian military strategists, brimming with confidence, anticipated a swift victory, envisioning a warm welcome from Ukrainian citizens and feeble resistance from their armed forces. A meticulously orchestrated plan emerged, a fusion of covert operations by the formidable FSB and a calculated show of military might. The goal? To swiftly capture Crimea, firmly establishing Russian control and securing a favorable outcome. But fate had different story in store. Russia's audacious maneuver didn't lead to disaster. It exceeded even Moscow's wildest dreams. The annexation of Crimea was achieved and Russia's leadership reveled in newfound confidence. Little did they realize that this very confidence would sow the seeds of their miscalculation, and their audacity reached a tipping point with a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The events that unfolded in Crimea back in 2014 stand as a chilling precursor to Russia's grand vision for its 2022 invasion. Understanding this historical context is paramount to comprehending the series of events shaping the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Brace yourself for the gripping tale of the Battle of Crimea, where the past reverberates into the present, leaving an indelible mark on the global stage. Crisis in Crimea. The twists and turns of Ukraine's political landscape as we delve into the events that led to the annexation of Crimea. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych emerged as Ukraine's president, bringing about a seismic shift in the country's political fabric. Despite a previous electoral defeat in 2004, Yanukovych re-emerged victorious by softening his stance on closer ties with Russia. Fast forward to 2013, when Yanukovych's decision to sign an association agreement with the European Union seemed to herald a new era of Western alignment. However, he abruptly reversed course, opting for a path that aligned Ukraine more closely with Russia through the Eurasian Economic Union. This unexpected move ignited massive protests in Kiev's Independence Square, known as the Maidan, as Ukrainians took to the streets to voice their discontent. As the protests intensified, Yanukovych's grip on power began to crumble. Meanwhile, concerns simmered among the Russian population in Crimea. The presence of the Soviet Black Sea Fleet, headquartered in Sevastopol, became a contentious issue. Though Crimea had become part of Ukraine upon its declaration of independence in 1991, the fleet remained a critical asset for Russia's strategic interests. Under Yanukovych's administration, the lease agreement for the fleet's base in Sevastopol was extended until 2042, securing Russia's foothold in the region. The prospect of a pro-Western leader taking power in Ukraine fueled Russia's fears of losing this strategic stronghold and jeopardizing the future of the Black Sea Fleet. Enter Vladimir Putin, who, faced with declining popularity, saw an opportunity to rally support. The unfolding events in Ukraine provided a golden chance to rekindle nationalistic sentiment and regain public approval. Against this backdrop, the stage was set for the dramatic annexation of Crimea and the subsequent escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Launching the Crimean operation. Following Viktor Yanukovych's flight from Kiev, the Ukrainian parliament swiftly stripped him of his presidential powers, leading to his eventual exile in Russia. Meanwhile, amidst the glitz and glamour of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Vladimir Putin was secretly orchestrating Russia's moves in Crimea. Behind closed doors, key figures such as Secretary of Russia's Security Council Nikolai Patrushev, FSB Director Alexander Bortnikov, and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, among others, were engaged in crucial discussions that would shape the course of events. While the exact details remain undisclosed, Putin's account indicates a late-night meeting in response to Yanukovych's departure, sparking concern within the Russian leadership. As plans for the annexation of Crimea took place, three main groups played integral roles. The Black Sea Fleet, already stationed in Crimea, seamlessly integrated into the operation. Special forces, including the formidable Spetsnaz, were mobilized under the guise of routine inspections and deployed to a naval base east of Crimea. Additionally, the local Russian sympathizers in Crimea, fueled by historical ties and coordinated efforts by the FSB, bolstered the operation's ranks. Taking control of Crimea, the protesters skillfully sowed chaos and confusion, diverting attention from the impending Russian takeover. By creating an illusion of a popular uprising, the Kremlin aimed to buy time and catch the West off guard. The special forces played a crucial role in seizing control of government buildings and establishing a political stronghold. On February 27th, they executed a daring infiltration of the Crimean parliament, proudly raising the Russian flag. With precision and efficiency, they swiftly dismissed the Crimean government and appointed Sergei Aksyonov as the prime minister, solidifying Russian influence. Meanwhile, the Black Sea Fleet worked to stall any Ukrainian response, allowing Russia to deploy additional forces without interruption. Exploiting Ukraine's lack of coordination and resources, the fleet effectively delayed any meaningful action. Ukraine's Minister of Defense's inability to coordinate a response further hindered the ability to counter the swift Russian advance. Adding to Ukraine's woes were defections within their own ranks. Key naval commanders deserted, revealing weaknesses in the chain of command. These betrayals undermined Ukraine's military capabilities and left them vulnerable in the face of Russian aggression. Ukraine's options for military action were severely limited. The Black Sea, under Russian control, posed significant obstacles to naval access. On land, the narrow entryway to Crimea offered little cover and exposed advancing troops to enemy fire. The challenging terrain made it susceptible to artillery attacks, creating a treacherous battleground for military planners. Russia's calculated move to mobilize troops along the land border further deterred Ukraine, diverting their resources to counter a potential attack from that direction. Caught off guard and outmaneuvered, Ukraine found itself locked out of Crimea, unable to mount a substantial military response before Russian control was firmly established. The intricate details of the operation highlight the strategic mastery employed by Russia, resulting in the swift annexation of Crimea. Russia's annexation of Crimea. The choices presented were joining Russia or restoring a more autonomous status under the 1992 constitution. Notably, the option to maintain the status quo was absent from the ballot. The referendum took place shortly after Putin's attendance of the Paralympic Games' closing ceremonies, following an unexpected timeline. The voting process was tightly controlled by Russia, with the absence of international election monitors. The reported results showed overwhelming support for joining Russia, with Sevastopol recording 95.6% and the rest of Crimea 96.8% in favor. However, concerns arose regarding the fairness and manipulation of the voting process, casting doubt on the accuracy of these figures. Interestingly, independent polling firms from Western countries suggest that the popular choice of joining Russia may have indeed won the referendum. While the extent of external influence in these beliefs remains uncertain, it's challenging to dismiss the possibility. On March 18th, the Kremlin held a signing ceremony, officially incorporating Crimea into Russian jurisdiction according to their law. However, the international community, as reflected in the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 68-82, did not recognize the annexation. The majority of countries supported Ukraine's territorial integrity, with only a handful, including Russia, voting against the resolution. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers sanctioned in Crimea faced an overwhelming numerical disadvantage and strategic challenges. Russia offered equal rank commissions to those who defected, while those who refused were granted safe passage out of the region. Avoiding border conflict and escalation, Russia sought to control the situation without provoking a larger war. Approximately half of the Ukrainian troops in Crimea chose to defect, taking substantial equipment with them. In response, Kiev ordered a complete withdrawal from Crimea on March 24th. Deciding the fate of the remaining Ukrainian ships posed additional strategic challenges. Ultimately, Ukraine relocated its navy headquarters from Sevastopol to Odessa. From Ukraine's perspective, the withdrawal from Crimea was not seen as a political concession, but rather described as the temporary occupation of Crimea. The annexation of Crimea was a triumph for Putin, boosting his popularity and igniting domestic euphoria. However, the flawed lessons learned from Crimea led to miscalculations in subsequent actions. The war in Donbass demonstrated that Ukrainians were not willing to surrender their country, leading to a prolonged and a bloody conflict. The culmination of these misjudgments was the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, destabilizing the region and marking a significant blunder in Russian history. Hope you found this video informative and engaging. I'd greatly appreciate if you could take the time to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends who might find it interesting, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Your support means a lot to me, so stay tuned for the next video, and until then, take care.